And let's dive in. Kind of a really interesting topic we have today, why successful entrepreneurs fail more than everyone else. Right? And right off the bat, welcome Adam to this live. Super excited to have you here. I'm curious to just see, what's your relationship with failure? Do you love it? Do you hate it? Do you understand it's just part of the deal that you've chosen when you became a business owner? Or is it something that you're noticing, if you're being really honest with yourself, it's something that you're sort of avoiding? Now, I work with a lot of early stage entrepreneurs, and the relationship my clients, when they first come into entrepreneurship, into their first business, have with failure, it's a bit of a revelation. It's a revelation of the past, and it's also a revelation of the future. It's a revelation of how historically, growing up through your childhood, through your teens, through your first or second career prior to this business, you have developed a relationship with failure. What you were told about what failure means, how people around you, whether that was your guardians, your parents, your teachers, your bosses, reacted when you quote unquote failed, what even passed as a failure versus a success. Now, those are all external dynamics that you have subconsciously internalized over the years and have made a part of your identity, a part of your false identity, a part of your conditioned identity. So without knowing, you've probably arrived here having a certain definition of success and having a certain definition of failure. And chances are about 9 to 10 that whatever definition of both success and failure you arrived here with isn't going to be the definition that's going to carry you into the future. Entrepreneurs absolutely need to have a healthy relationship with failure. So, what we're going to look at today is, what does it even mean to quote unquote fail forward in business? We've heard that. What does that mean? We've all heard that entrepreneurs fail a lot. That's not something I came up with, that's just a thing. What does that mean for you? But we'll also look at, what is the relationship you have to failure? Where does it come from? And how can you change it? So, you're getting a full fledged masterclass today. Let's dive right in. So I wrote down a little something here, a little wisdom that came to me a few days ago that I think summarizes quite nicely what I've just been saying. So I'm just going to read this off the page. Business doesn't reveal whether you're capable. Failure doesn't reveal whether you're capable. Business and business ownership simply reveals what still needs to be healed, so you can lead at the level your vision requires you to lead. So, I know when I started my business, there was a part of me that was very afraid to fail. Yes, because failure wasn't exactly an option for me growing up, but also because I didn't want to go back. So I had a somewhat helpful definition of failure back then, which was, failure for me means to go back to your job. Somewhat helpful when you're building a business. It tends to drive you forward, right? I want to know, when you first started your business, or maybe you're in the process of starting your business, you're getting into your first few sales conversations as a new coach, check in with yourself. How do you relate to failure? Are you trying to get things perfect? Let me give you a few examples, because our relationship to failure isn't front and center. It doesn't just arrive in your business and say, "Hi, I'm your relationship to failure." No, this is what this might look like for you on the ground. You might be procrastinating a launch, the launch of a product, the launch of your new offer, the launch of your podcast, because deep down, you know that your mom would rip you apart for what you really want to be saying on that podcast. That's an indication of what relationship you have with failure. Another example, you keep undercharging because your dad made sure that you grew up believing that money is evil and rich people are greedy. So that you can avoid him thinking of you as greedy, you undercharge. Another example, You just sweat through your shirt when setting boundaries with a client because your mom guilt tripped you into never asking for what you need. Notice how you're perpetuating an old pattern into your business. And notice how the perpetuation of that old pattern is keeping you from moving into the future that you envision. So you can envision your future all day long. If you keep reinforcing those old patterns, your old definition to failure is actively keeping you from your new definition of your new dream. Another example. You made yourself the bottleneck of your business because your dad told you to work really hard and to avoid risks and to stick with the stable path. So yeah, congratulations. You skipped over the stable path, aka getting a job and having a 9-to-5 job. But you're now a business owner and you're still perpetuating these thoughts of, I can't take risks, so you don't hire a person. Or I can trust other people to take care of me, so you don't hire a VA person. Maybe you hire a team, but you're the only person who takes care of sales in your business. That's you making yourself the bottleneck because you are perpetuating these old definitions really of success that now have turned into failure. So again, whether you're watching this live or you're watching this later in the replay, give me an amen in the chat. What is your version of avoiding a launch or avoiding increasing your fees or not hiring a team? What's your business version of that? So as we dive in, here's the hypothesis I want to put forth today. The entrepreneurs who grow the fastest are not the ones who fail the least. The entrepreneurs who grow the fastest are the ones who allow themselves to fail as often as it takes, and this is important, who recover fastest from failure. So failure isn't the problem. To anyone who is here who is like, I'm just really trying to get my business perfect and I really want to avoid failure, I'm here to tell you, in avoiding failure in your business, you're avoiding success. In your business, if you're trying to avoid failure, you are implicitly avoiding success. Now, I'm not saying go out and try to fail, but I'm saying anticipate failing. Change your relationship to what failure really means. So failure itself is not the problem. Avoiding failure, your relationship to failure, you failing and then saying, I'm a failure and I shouldn't do this. The story that you tell yourself as a result of failure, that's the problem. So let's talk about this. Failure is not the problem. Most entrepreneurs aren't really afraid of losing money, right? Because when we look at it, what does it even mean to fail in business, right? What do you mean when you say I'm trying to avoid failure? What do you actually mean by that? Because it's not failure, it's fear of rejection. It's fear of losing money. It's fear of being seen as fill in the blank. And then what do you make the reality of that fear becoming true mean about yourself? I'm not good enough. I chose the wrong business. I'm not capable. I'm not a good coach. I'm not a good salesperson. I'll never be able to sell. This isn't meant for me. Notice something? It's not the failure that's pulling you down. It's the story you're telling yourself about failure. So that's the first thing we got to do. You got to change your relationship to failure. You have to change what you make failing in your business mean about yourself. Because the truth of the matter is, failure is actually something very creative in business. It's something very creative in business. Every single coach I've spoken to, every single business mentor I've spoken to, every past version of myself has had a failed launch. I've launched something and no one bought it. What happens? You learn from it. Was it the offer? Was it the positioning? Was it the price? Probably not. Was it the messaging? Was it how often, how long I talked about it? Did I actively, subconsciously avoid selling this and only told myself that I was selling this, but I never talked to a single person privately about the offer? You can learn from failure if you allow failure to be something creative and stop telling yourself the story of this must mean something about my identity and my worthiness. It doesn't. It simply means something about what didn't go right. Thus, you can look at, critically assess what caused the failure and try again. That's entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship is trial and error until you figure out the one thing. You only need one way to make it happen, right? So you experiment, you try, and you fail, and you find the path to success. Second, I already mentioned this. Most of this mess that we find ourselves in as entrepreneurs started way before we became entrepreneurs, right? It started in our childhood. As children, failure often meant, fill in the blank for that for me in the chat. As a child, failure meant that you weren't loved. You couldn't sit at the dinner table. You weren't allowed to go to your friend's house. What was it? Loss of approval, disappointing parents, embarrassment, punishment, being laughed at, feeling unsafe. So, subconsciously, adulthood and business ownership, the way you show up specifically to sales and marketing in your business, becomes this one long, stretched out attempt to avoid recreating those feelings. That is why in my coaching sessions, when I teach on sales, inevitably, one way or another, I'm going to ask my clients, how did your parents talk about money? How did your parents talk about your worth? Did your parents ever allow you to experiment? Because that shit shows up in your sales calls, right? So you want to become aware of what it is in the past that's holding you back so that you can unwind it, bring it to the surface, look at it and say, thank you for getting me here. I no longer need you. You have to do that unraveling so that you can unbecome who you were conditioned to become, so that you got room and space and capacity to become the leader that you're meant to be. If you want some support with that beyond me just giving you the big picture, the umbrella version of this today, then I absolutely recommend that you plug into my masterclass, Unbecoming. The un is in little parentheses. This is the deep dive work that we do. It's a $47 masterclass that you can plug in. Comes in two parts. First part helps you unravel that shit. The second part, I'm never ever gonna leave you hanging with just a revelation. The second part is all about integration. Now that you've learned your definition to success, your relationship to failure, your relationship to money, your relationship to deserving, which shows up in asking for the money, which shows up in sending the invoice. In the second part of this masterclass, Unbecoming, you get to integrate this newly emerging identity that now has space to expand into concrete actions in your business. This is one of the most popular classes amongst my private clients. I don't officially make it a requirement, but at one point or another, all of my private clients are being put through this masterclass, and the results are almost immediate. Even if my clients haven't told me yet that they've watched the masterclass, I can see it in how they show up to their stories. I usually get a message from them within a week that, oh my gosh, Dina, I just posted this thing and 3 people are in the DMs telling me about their story and they want to buy from me. Yeah, it's because you're showing up differently. It's because you have unbecome. So drop the chat, drop the word vision in the chat if you want the link to that masterclass, Unbecoming. Now, as we talk about failure, we have to talk about sort of where failure sits within the bigger market of online coaching, or even bigger than that, online business ownership. Because I don't think that failure is something that's talked about very often in anyone's online marketing, right? It's it's not sexy to talk about it, but it's actually the thing that at the end of the day, any good coach will mentor and coach you through, because it's a real bottleneck in how you relate to your business and in the actions that you do and do not allow yourself to take in your business. Meanwhile, what we're seeing happening a lot in online marketing, and now with AI, it's becoming even more elevated, is here's the quickest way to success. All you have to do is spend 2 hours with this AI agent, and boom, AI is going to start printing money for you. It like, if you were to only look at some of the loudest voices in especially the sponsored online marketing, online business, online coaching market, you could very well be led to be believed that you don't even have to fail. Like, online business ownership is a sure path away from failure. It's the best way to avoid failure. And that couldn't be further from the truth. Especially with the listen, AI is here, AI is here to stay, right? And I integrate AI into my business. I'm not against AI, but one of the things that I think about a lot in regards to coaching and AI is actually that I think that with the era of AI that we're now entering into, AI is going to first very slowly and then very rapidly become that beautiful revelation of mediocrity. Those who aren't good coaches are very quickly going to go out of business. If they haven't already, they should have. Those who aren't good salespeople, even though they're good coaches, are going to go out of business, because guess what? AI will never be able to sell coaching. Your trust, the trust that you are able or not able to build with a prospective client, is going to sell coaching. That's always been true. That's becoming more and more true now with the era of AI that we are in, right? So AI is this, yes, in certain ways, it's making the field more equitable. In other ways, it's making the world more inequitable. And in our tiny little $1 billion niche of coaching, it's going to wash out those who have no business being a coach. I'm actually quite excited about this. But in the meantime, online marketing about I'm going to help you grow a business is going to become louder and louder, and is going to become more and more about just how quickly and with how little effort you can build a business. And of course, that speaks to the parts of ourselves, of all of us, myself included, that haven't yet been healed from conditioned definitions of success and failure. Because who doesn't want passive income without lifting a finger, right? But the truth of the matter is, business is always going to be hard. Business is always going to require you to do your inner work and heal your inner shit. That's what we're talking about today. It's always going to require you to be present, to drive the vision forward, to be of service, of dedicated, unwavering service to your clients and to your bottom line, and to sell. None of that is going to change. It's never changed. It's always been this way. It's always going to be this way. AI is going to just help us be a little more efficient, but it's not going to take the human out of the human relationship between coach and client. So don't be fooled by big promises. Check in with yourself and ask yourself, honestly, wait a minute. Let me send this through my inner system, through my inner filter, through my intuition. Is it just that inner child that's not been healed yet that feels drawn to that marketing? Or do I, as a functioning grown adult, actually know better and something about this feels off? Because at the end of the day, the clients of mine, see, for my clients, I oftentimes make a differentiation between something feeling easeful and shit not being easy. I want you to feel easeful in your business, as in I want you to build a business, a purpose, an offer that is on purpose with who you are. There's, for every single one of us, there is something, there's a topic, there's a thing that we do and a thing that we be, that when we allow ourselves to do and be that thing, we just light up, and we could talk about it all day, every day. It's very clear what that is for me, right? Is it not? Right? I want you to be easeful in your business. I want you to naturally step into your purpose and then build from your purpose. I have a little masterclass on how to step into your purpose, find your purpose, step into your purpose, and build your entire ecosystem of offers, your messaging, your positioning around who you are. That doesn't mean that business isn't hard as shit. My clients, the ones who are most successful, understand that every single day they have to recommit to their business. Every single day they have to wake up and rain or shine. They got to sell. They got to make an offer. They got to need to connect with someone. They have to drive a relationship forward towards a conversation, and they have to serve their clients. Rain or shine. Business is hard. Business gets easier. Business is hard as shit in the first 3 years. And they also understand that if business becomes this tension, this stop and go, there is some ease to be won and some ease to be stepped back into. But don't let the loudest voices out there fool you into trying to avoid failure. That is not a thing. You can't set a business and forget about it, not a coaching business. I would argue not any business if you're in it for the long run, but specifically not a coaching business. Let's talk about how to plan for failure. Now, I'm not going to go into like the financial specifics of planning for failure. That's not what this is about. There's two primary functions of a business. One is to serve your clients. The other is to sell. That's it. That means that marketing and growing your audience is a supporting function, not a primary function. But that goes way beyond the scope of this masterclass. Two primary functions of a business. Sell something, serve someone. Those two things really could be summarized as one and the same thing, which is to create an opportunity to serve. That is what you want to wake up doing every single day in business. You want to wake up and go, how can I create an opportunity to be of service today? Sometimes you create that opportunity within your existing clients, and sometimes you create that opportunity for non-clients, for warm leads, for potential clients, for new leads that have just come in. You create an opportunity to serve. This live stream is an opportunity for me to serve. It's also an opportunity for me to sell. In that same vein, and this is true for business owners whose business is 1 day old, and it's true for business owners whose business is 10 years old and older than that. You want to always be in a state of experimentation. You want to always be in a state of wonder. You want to always be in a state of innovation. And innovation comes from failure. Innovation comes through failure. Therefore, as you're creating opportunities to serve, as you're creating opportunities to sell, you want to create opportunities for yourself to fail. What does that look like? Oftentimes, when it comes to my clients who are new coaches, I kind of have to slap their wrist at one point or another. And I gotta say, listen, so-and-so, you've been working on this offer behind the scenes for the last 4 weeks. It's about time we put it out into the market. But it's not perfect, Dina. I want to do this and I want to do that, and I'm not ready yet, and I'm not experienced enough for it yet. I'm like, exactly. Let's get you some experiment. Let's get you, not let's get you some experiment. Let's get you some experience. Let's get you ready by putting it out into the market. Now, I'm not setting you up for a failure. I would never do that. I'm not a bad person like that. I care about my clients very much. But I am giving you an opportunity to figure out what doesn't yet work. And you can tell me all day long about the beautiful ways in which AI can help you do market research. Girl, boy, man, woman, gentleman, person, human, you gotta go and do your own research. You're a coach. Your ability to establish a trusting relationship with another human essentially is the product in your business. You're going to actually hand market research over to an AI bot? The way people speak to you as a coach is going to be unique. The way the exact same 10 people speak to you about their problem is going to be different and unique and distinguished from how those same 10 people speak to other people, speak to other coaches even. But the language that you gain from that, the problems that you extrapolate from that, the dreams that you hear about from those 10 people are going to become your directive for your offer, your baseline for your messaging, hell, your baseline for your entire positioning. And that means that if you're trying to get it perfect and you're in your little laboratory and you're trying to figure out how to get the offer perfect and how to get the landing page just right, you're robbing yourself of a huge opportunity to success. How are you doing that? You're trying to avoid failure. Why are you doing that? Childhood. Your definition of failure. The fact that no one ever celebrated the fact that you went through with an experiment. So here's what I do for my clients. Early on, that is. I say, we're not going to get clients for you. The next 4 weeks, you're not going to get clients. You're going to take what you have as an offer. You're going to take it to 10 people inside research calls. And you're going to let them give you feedback. You're going to let them give you just their stream of consciousness about the problems that you're looking to solve. You're going to take notes on what they say, how they say it, why they say it. And that's what's going to make your offer worthwhile. Coincidentally, oftentimes those 10 research people become, some of those, not all of them, some of those people tend to become your first clients anyway, right? So that's a little client creation strategy for you over there. But the point is much bigger than that. This is an example of creating opportunities to fail so that through the creativity that comes from that failure, you can create success. But I want to give you a few more examples, what I mean by that, because this is really important. And I'm about to give you examples that are super actionable, and you can literally, out of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 that I'm about to give you, you can pick one tonight and go and run with that. You can go and run with that 30 days in a row for the next 30 days until the beginning of August if you want to. For example, creating opportunities to fail. Remember, for me, that's all the same. You create an opportunity to fail. That means you actively go out and figure out, how can I surf? And sometimes you make an offer to surf and it's not going to work, and that's okay. That's okay. Success is you went out and you did the thing. Success is not, you went out and you did the thing and everyone said yes to you. If that were the case, then you're either a magician or your prices are too low. Examples. You make 5 offers today knowing that 4 might be rejected. I made 10 offers this morning. I already got 1 rejection. I got left on red ones, and I'm waiting to hear back from the other 8 people. That's a success for me. I don't even know what the others are going to say. I don't even know if I'm going to get 8 yeses back, or 5 yeses, or 0 yeses. I succeeded because I took the action. I allowed myself to create an opportunity to serve, created opportunities to make offers, and thus, yes, I said failure, come on in. I want to grow. That means I got to learn. That means I got to give myself an opportunity to fail. Second, publish before it's perfect. We're here on Substack. Publish that damn article. If it has a typo, so what? At least I know it's not AI who wrote the article. Raising your prices. If you're watching this after the fact, absolutely send me your immediate reaction to this in a DM. How would you react if I told you, hey, let's increase your prices even just by 10%? What's your reaction? Is your first reaction, but what if people think it's too expensive? Okay. So be it. Number 4, allow yourself to invite someone to a sales call. Listen, if you want 10 clients in this day and age, in this current trust recession that we're in, you want to be talking to, depending on where you're at in business, between 100 and 3, 4, 500 people. You want to be moving 200 of those conversations forward. You want to be making, 80 to 100 invitations to a connection call. From that, you want to invite at least 50, 60 people into a sales call. Not all of those people are going to say yes to a sales call. But hey, if you got 30 sales calls and you know what you're doing on the sales call, chances are very high that 10 of them, 1 in 3, are going to close. Are you going to let the fact that possibly 20 people say no to you on a sales call deter you from reaching out to as many people as possible, giving yourself as many opportunities to serve as possible? By the way, is serving people not the reason you became a coach in the first place? How could you let your fear of failure get in the way of serving people? How dare you? So go and invite someone to a sales call. You know what? I'm going to give you a script. I'm going to make this super easy for you. Hey, so-and-so, I've really been loving the conversations we've been having here in the DMs. I absolutely love the goal that you're working towards and what you shared with me about where you're getting stuck. I absolutely resonate with that. And I actually think that this is something that I could really support you with resolving. And what I'd love to do, just based on intuition, I'd love to invite you to a 30 to 45-minute connection call to hear a little bit more about your dream and why that is important to you, and to have a conversation around how I might support you in resolving A, B, and C. Might you be available to connect with me on a call next week on Tuesday or Thursday? There, sent that out to 5 people. Speak live. Honestly, there's some stuff in here where, like, I wish I could have just sort of come out and come back in like I sometimes do with my recorded trainings for my clients. I hit play and I mess up and I hit stop and I put some more lipstick on and I hit play again and then it becomes somewhat perfect. Can't do that here on a live stream. Frankly, I wish more people were here. I invited way more people. That inner child is like a little abandoned right now. It's like, come on, you all promised to be here. Why aren't you here? But the visionary in me, the leader in me, the business owner in me, the salesperson in me knows it doesn't matter who is here. And Adam, I'm absolutely seeing you. I'm seeing that you're still here, and I absolutely appreciate you being here live. To everyone who watches this live after the fact, and I know that people are going to watch this live after the fact. Why? Because I'm going to invite people to do it. Why? Because I'm going to promote this live stream after the fact. Why do I do that? Not because I have a number in mind of how many people need to watch the live stream. No, because I know there's some good shit in this live stream. And I'm not going to let my fear of abandonment get in the way of serving my purpose, of serving the people for whom I became a coach in the first place. So I'm going to spread this. I'm going to spread this wide to as many people as possible. So with going live, you're giving yourself multiple opportunities to fail. You can mess up, you can lose your train of thought, you can show up late like I did today, you can show up to no audience and you do it anyway. Because in business, you actually always have a second chance. I think anywhere in life, you always have a second chance. But especially in business, if no one shows up to this live, okay, great, let's go again next week. And the week after that, and the week after that, and the week after that. Every opportunity to serve is also an opportunity to fail, aka is an opportunity for you to learn, become more creative, and grow from it. Speaking on lives, I have 2 more for you. Why don't you pitch for yourself to be on a podcast? Why don't you ask a current client for a referral? And what's the worst that can happen? Because I know someone out there who's watching this after the fact just went, I could never ask for a referral. I couldn't be as needy. I don't want to be seen as needy. What are my clients going to think if I ask for a referral? Am they going to think that I need the money? No. No. They're going to think that, oh my gosh, you have another spot available on your roster to serve a friend, a colleague of mine. How amazing. And thank you for thinking of me to put you in touch with one of my colleagues. That's what they're going to think. So do it. Give yourself an opportunity to serve. Now, again, if any of these business actions that I just gave you triggered the shit out of you, you need to watch Unbecoming. You need to unravel that shit. You need to understand where it comes from, and you need to learn how to give it back and to replace that old shit with the true person that you were meant to be, with the true leader that you were meant to be, because you can't build a business with all of that baggage. You actually cannot. Right? They tell you all you need is an AI system, you can become a successful business entrepreneur. No, you got to heal your shit and you can become a successful business entrepreneur. So if any of what I just suggested you do didn't sit well with you, if you almost feel like, I'm gonna be sick if I just think of doing that, let alone actually going through with doing that, then you absolutely need to go ahead and put yourself inside Unbecoming. Again, this is a $47 low investment masterclass that might just change the way you relate to your business. So if you're not comfortable with sharing in the chat, in the comments, that you want that link to that masterclass, I don't bite. And I monitor my DMs very well. So you can just send me a message and say, hey, I want the Unbecoming masterclass. Which leads me into my fifth and final point. How you recover from failure is going to determine the speed at which you can grow your business to whatever you call success. So, a not so great way to relate to failure is to simply avoid it. Again, if you avoid failure, that means implicitly you avoid success in your business. You're not here to avoid success in your business. You actually want to become successful. It's just that no one told you how to do that and what it's going to take internally, right? That's what we're here for. So the leaders who become the most successful, not just in a monetary sense, but in a inner fulfillment, meaning sense, are the ones who develop a healthier relationship with failure, are the ones who can be yelled at by a client and within a minute bring their nervous system down to baseline again. How can you become a leader like that? One is practice. One is practice. When I first started my business, about 6.5, going on 7 years ago, I was in my cute little apartment in Germany and I was enrolling into my very first mastermind, which at the time, I don't know, maybe it cost $3,000. I don't know. Doesn't matter. I was on the phone with a person and I took the person through this beautiful transformational sales experience that I now teach my clients. And the client or the person, the prospect said, I think, Dina, you can absolutely support me. And I said, I absolutely agree with you on that. Is it okay for us to talk about the investment? Yes, I shared the investment and the person went kaput. Like just completely lost their mind, hung up on me, and then proceeded to share about me as being exploitative and as being a charlatan and called me all kinds of things in all kinds of Facebook groups. This was the era, the great time of Facebook and Facebook groups. Just talked shit about me. And I had a bunch of colleagues reach out to me and be like, what the fuck happened? Like, are you okay, Dina? And then he sends me this really long message on Facebook about just how bad a person I am and how big of a waste of time. Anyway, long story short is this took me weeks to recover from. Weeks. Now, you're going to get some pretty cray-cray people in your sales process, sometimes even as paying clients. And as a business owner, you have to understand that's just part of the deal. That's part of the deal. If that happens all the time, we have to look at your boundaries. We have to look at your enrollment process. We have to look at who you are attracting and allowing into your business. But regardless, it's going to happen once in a while. Now, I just had something happen this morning that 6 years ago would have absolutely derailed my day. Someone who has paid me in the past wasn't being very kind to me. And I had to run it through my inner, like, okay, little Dina, we're okay, we're safe. This person doesn't mean me. This person means themselves. It's okay. We can A, separate the social self from the professional self, and B, we can separate the projection from my identity. It took me exactly 20 seconds to recover from that. So the reason I'm telling you all of this, first story happened in early 2020. Today's story obviously happened in 2026. What does it take for you to become a leader who recovers quickly from failure or from criticism, from hate comments on social media? Time, practice. That's why before this point I talked about giving yourself opportunities to fail and putting yourself out there to fail, subjecting yourself to failure, to exposure, to visibility. You got to practice that shit. A year ago I couldn't do a pull-up. Now I can do a pull-up. You have to build that muscle of resilience. You absolutely have to. But how do you actually build that muscle? Well, there's a few steps I want to take you through before I go today. Step number one, you have to separate fact from interpretation. So I'll take this as an example. There's not a lot of people on this webinar. That's a fact. No one wants to hear what I have to say. That's a story. Is that story absolutely true? Nope, it's not. A fact tends to be absolutely true, meaning it's true for every single person, every single situation. A story, I know that people need to hear this shit that I'm talking about today, and I know that people want to hear it from me. That's been proven inside and around my business time and time again. That's been proven 10 times over, even just in conversations I've had with clients and with prospects today. So you want to catch the story that you're telling yourself and then ask yourself, is there a different story I could tell myself about this? A better story I could tell myself about this. Step number 2, extract the lesson before extracting the emotion. And I'm not saying suppress your emotions. Your emotions are valid, your feelings are valid, and you want to give your feelings room to be felt. Oftentimes, that's all the ambition a feeling ever has, is to be felt, right? But you do want to separate the lesson from the emotion. Just because you're sad doesn't mean that there is sadness within, that there is a lesson within that sadness. So let yourself be sad, recover from that sadness, come back to a nervous system baseline that's neutral, and then ask yourself what worked, what didn't work, what will I test next? And one for the advanced people amongst us, how did I contribute to this failure? Because sometimes we sabotage our own success. You want to get honest with yourself and ask yourself, how did I contribute to this? And what can I vow to myself, to my future self, to my future, to my dreams, to my business, to my team, if you have it, to do better next time? And step number 3, you got to get back into action quickly. Confidence comes from movement. Not before movement, not before action. It comes from movement. I used to be a dancer, and there was a routine that me and a couple other girls and our partners, our dance partners, were training for, and there was a pretty big lift that we were doing where the man lifted us over his head, and my female colleague, actually got dropped doing one of those rehearsals, and she actually it's funny now, it wasn't funny in the moment, and she actually got a little injured. Nothing broke, but she did chip her tooth and we had to take her to the dentist. Guess what our dance coach did within seconds of her being dropped to the floor? He picked her up. He had her do a scan through her body. Are you hurt anywhere? Is anything broken? Can you move everything? Great. Do you trust me? Yes, Enrico, I trust you. Boom! He lifted her. Get back into action fast. Otherwise, just like anywhere else in life, there is such a thing as developing PTSD in your business. No, this didn't work before. I've just never been doing it since. Launches didn't work for me before. They're too exhausting and they never ever yield the result that I want. So I stopped launching. Get back into action fast. You don't need confidence to act. You need to act to gain confidence. What you actually need to act is courage. That's really what business is all about, courage. So let's talk about cost. Failure itself is actually not expensive. It's really not. It's avoiding failure that is expensive. Also, not planning for failure, but again, we're not talking about that today. Avoiding failure, avoiding ridicule, avoiding hate comments, avoiding rejection, avoiding people disagreeing with you. That shit is expensive. Because the more you consciously or subconsciously construct a marketing, a content, a business, an offer strategy around that avoidance, the less people will understand how you can help with them. The less people will want to work with you because they don't know who the frick you are. So building a business from avoidance, that's the expensive thing, not failure itself. Concrete examples? Maybe you're afraid that the next sales call isn't going to go your way. So what, you're going to avoid the sales call altogether? Well, that shit is expensive. Just because someone said no to you today, are you going to avoid tomorrow's conversations that you move forward towards a sale? Well, that shit, today's no is not expensive, but not inviting 10 more people tomorrow, that is expensive. So now the onus is on you. How are you going to go out into the world and continue to build your business? With courage or with avoidance? With your eyes clearly set on the vision, or with one eye looking back to what happened to you 5 years ago when you quote unquote failed? The choice is entirely yours. And you know what else is your choice? Is to buy Unbecoming. It truly is a masterclass that no business owner should be without. It yields instantaneous results. Even just after the first session, people message me and go, oh my gosh, Dina, I never put those dots together. Because in the masterclass, in unraveling that first part of the masterclass, Unbecoming, I have you look through where you're holding yourself back from driving your business forward, because you know where you're holding yourself back from driving your business forward. And then I guide you through an exercise that helps you connect the dots between what you're doing today in your business and why you're doing that, based on something your dad said, your aunt said, your mom said, your teacher, your boss said. And once you understand why you do certain things, from there, it's just one more step that I'm going to teach you in the second part of Unbecoming, to undo that shit and to replace it with some healthier habits so that you may actually become the badass leader that you were meant to be. And avoiding failure is just not on the menu for any successful leaders. So get rid of that shit. Go fail, go create opportunities to serve and to sell. And if you have any questions after this, any reflections after this, or if you want the link to the masterclass Unbecoming, then you can drop a public comment here and you can just message me a private message here on Substack, or for whatever reason you prefer Instagram, I'm Dina Seeks Freedom on Instagram. You can message me there. I will be back here next week on Thursday. If you're not subscribed, what the hell are you doing? I send out some really amazing business essays every Saturday. I have these live streams, and I put out some really good shit that's going to help you become a salesperson who's not sleazy, but a salesperson who actually loves sales. That is the one thing my clients tell me after a week. Who knew that sales could be joyful? So if you want sales to be enjoyable for you as well and you're not subscribed, do that now. Take good care and I'll talk to you next week. Bye.